Hello, I'm Steve. A little about myself. I'm a retired law enforcement officer with 20 years of service. I began my career in the jail, worked the road, and became an investigator. During my career, my training consisted of everything from SWAT to becoming a state certified crime scene technician. I've investigated crimes from thefts to homicides. After retiring and becoming aware of true crime and web sleuths, I started my channel for web sleuths to better understand the perspectives of law enforcement. Not only do we cover true crime, I go out into the field and assist families who have lost loved ones to homicide and their cases are considered cold. Join me as we look and bring attention to these critical cases.
Hello, everyone. Glad you're able to join us tonight. A little bit different surroundings if you're new to the channel. Um, we welcome you. Typically, we have our banner in the background, but Mrs. Steve has been moved to Florida. We're in our uh, new temporary home while we look for another home. But and we had to get Mrs. Steve down here so that she would be able to hold her new grandson that was born last night. And he was 8 pounds, 11 ounces, and 21 inches long. And he is absolutely the everything that Mrs. Steve expected him to be. And so she's absolutely, I went down the ladder a little bit. Uh, Once again, this is our second grandchild, and she's excited. But anyway, we wish to thank everyone for being here tonight. Um, like I said, Mrs. Steve is normally here with me, and she has she's the main part of this show that keeps everything running smoothly. And so tonight, it probably won't be as smooth as normal, but just bear with us until we get everything established and. For both residences from the one in Georgia and the one down here in Florida. So it's just going to take us a while, but we appreciate everybody being with us tonight. And during the presentation, if you have any questions or anything, put them in chat. If you're new to the channel, be mindful, respectful of families, mods, and each other, and enjoy your time here. And I'll try to keep up with everybody in chat tonight. And like I said, it won't be as smooth with me flying this thing solo as it is with Mrs. Steve. So we just have to bear with me. All right. Let's see. Let me get started. We'll have our presentation, and I'll be cutting in and out of the presentation a little bit different than what we normally do for the fact it's, like I said, flying solo, guys. All right. If you have any information regarding the Delphi, absolutely want you to make sure that law enforcement has that information and that information is given to the proper people for the fact that we have to have justice for Libby and Abby. And for that process to be continued through the court system, they have to have all the information. Regardless of the information that you have, if it's something that is condemning, absolutely we have to have that information. If it's something that is exonerating as far as who's being charged, Richard Allen, who is, as always, is innocent till proven guilty in our court system. Now, I have opinions. Everyone has opinions. And that's a lot about what this show is tonight. How polarized we are from those who have the opinions of guilt versus those that have the opinion of innocence, that Richard Allen's being railroaded. And we have to respect all of that for the fact that the truth is in there between these two opposing parties. And we just have to respect. And we see it so often that, and I don't understand from my generation, I'm older generation probably than a lot of of the population out there. But I don't believe my parents or my grandparents would recognize the current court systems. And they wouldn't, and they absolutely would not understand the social media platforms and the influences that it has on our society and where it's pushing our court system. And is this a good thing or a bad thing? And once again, it's somewhere in there between uh, the on that spectrum of what will the court's positive improvements be as they move forward and the courts start to understand and learn about this social media platform and the cameras and public opinion. We've always had it, of course, but it wasn't being, I guess, so much debated across the world. It was always debated previously, prior to the internet, within the communities. That you may have the county seat and you had different people from different communities arguing, and you were only the parameters of those arguing were very small, just from within that county, maybe adjoining counties if they had a change of venue or something of that nature. So it's very confusing of what's going on with this and what is now it takes to possibly see that justice is found, and is that we have justice not just for Libby and Abby, but for all the families, because there's some parallels that we're going to have to look at, not just with Libby and Abby, but I have a little section tonight also about Koberger of the parallels that our society is it due to our CSI of looking at those issues and seeing how the programs are put out there of how evidence is collected, and we absolutely have that solid bit of evidence for the fact that if we look at these cases, there's been people that with the evidence that we have against that's in the probable cause, and it still hasn't been proven yet. But if that evidence is proven to a jury and they're convinced of it, that there's been people that have been faced the ultimate adjudication of the court systems of facing the penalties of DP with far less evidence than what Richard Allen is facing and what is Koberger facing, and what has changed. And this, obviously, to me, is this internet, and that we have such polarization of everybody's opinions and not having the ability to debate it reasonably. There's people out there now, and I get some amazing emails. Excuse me. I get some amazing emails of where people are polarized one way or the other. But anyway, before I get too far into it, let me go through chat here and try to keep up. And I don't want to get too far behind, and see if there's any questions, because I have a lot of people in here. I normally don't welcome people at this point, but and I have so many people in here, and such a great community. I want to absolutely thank all of y'all for being here, and we appreciate your support. Let's see. I'm just trying to get through the questions right now, guys. I just don't want to get too far behind, and there's a lot of stuff to do. Curtis West says that there was a new filing by judge that denied the Frank's motion as filed and unmodified as ordered. Said new counsel may modify and take it up. Okay. So the Frank's motion is that 136-page document of dime story null, because regardless of which side of the table you're on, there's a lot of information within that Frank's motion, a huge amount of information. And it's had a huge impact, and has it led to some of the leaking and everything and understanding and the arguments? Absolutely. I believe it's had an impact, and it's destroyed a lot of relationships, even within the creators communities of creators out there, which is a terrible thing that occurs when you have people that have such a ability to go out there and bring focus to a case, bring awareness. And, we should hopefully, as we learn and as we grow, that we understand how to work together better. And I'm hoping that will be the case. All right, let's see here. And let me see. Thank y'all for all the congratulations on the grandson. So y'all have to bear with me. My mind is a little bit off to the side because right down the hall here, I have a another grandson that we're babysitting tonight while my son-in-law and my daughter, um, they're both in. Well, he's staying with her in the hospital tonight. They after birth is a 48-hour stay, but the baby is doing well. All right. Yeah, and we've got to come up with a name for now that we have a new generation of Steves. Of course, we got Steve, Mrs. Steve, baby Steve, which is my daughter, and then we've got to come up with something about the grandsons 2.0s or whatever they're going to be, 2.0 and 2.01. I don't know, or 00, double O. That's it. Uh, baby Steve. And then baby Steve O and baby Steve OO. I don't know. Oh man. Of all the things I did not pack the port. It's on, I can tell you exactly where it's at. It's about 400 something miles north of here, sitting on in my studio at home. and I can see it sitting right beside where I normally have my computer. Mm. All right, I'm almost caught up on this. I think I'm at 80. I'm gonna get to 8:05. Uh, Junior Johnson has a question. I wonder who or if someone else was involved. And there's a lot of absolutely. If you read some of the information that's within the Frank's motion from Team A, from and that they imply that there's multiple parties, and through there being multiple parties of some pagan cult, that of course it can't be Richard Allen for the fact that he has no connections to that type of a cult that would recognize and be able to create certain signature aspects of that crime, and which, like I said, it's one way or the other. Now, could it be that Richard Allen has helped? Absolutely. Could Richard Allen have played a part in some other fraction of this that we don't know? Absolutely. And that's from the aspects of where I approach it, and is the probable cause enough evidence to show that I believe and I support the prosecution. It's a biased opinion. We all have them, and that's where I'm at. And some of the shows we've had is I want you to provide the evidence. Otherwise, show me the exact evidence that you have against these other parties that is strong and supported, and absolutely change my mind. All right, I like that. Hey, Webbers, that's a good name, Webbers. I like that. All right. All right. Prof says, how about the opinion that he's probably guilty, but he should be treated fairly and as an innocent person until he is proven and convicted guilty? Absolutely. That is the whole basis of what our Constitution is based upon, and our judicial system, that we're all to be judged and judged fairly by a jury of our peers through the judicial system, and that he should be treated fairly. Now, that fairly is that whatever the rules of the court and the findings of the court of where he's to be held, maintained, detained, protected, whatever they decide, because within the Constitution there are some certain rights that individuals have, and as long as it's fairly, and sometimes certain things have to occur to guarantee the safety. And I don't understand. All I need to understand about Indiana, for the fact that some of the areas that I worked in Georgia, you're pretty well, you could be isolated in almost any facility. And I don't understand, we were always short staffed ourselves, but we always had abilities of protecting and isolating individuals within our county systems. Evidently, Indiana doesn't have that capability, which is odd to me. But I couldn't agree with you any more than what Prof said there. All right. All right. All right. Let's get into the presentation just for a few minutes, and then we'll go from there. Of course, this is Richard Allen, and we're looking at it. What does it take and to either prove his innocence or to prove his guilt? And he doesn't have to prove his innocence. He's to be considered innocent until proven guilty. But what would it take? Our grandparents and our parents, and even my generation, I'm 60 years old. And so my generation, we came along with the court system, and we had far more respect for law enforcement than what is the current consensus of society. We've seen things from what we've seen in the last 2 or 3 years and 4 years, and since the COVID and the riots and all the issues that's facing law enforcement now. And why is that? And it's a societal issue and problem, and what will fix it? I have no idea, but we're going to have to fix it. But on this graph here, and the reason I created it is that Richard Allen had a couple interviews. The first time that he was interviewed by law enforcement was something that he made contact with law enforcement, stepped forward and said, "Hey, I was on the trail that day." And then in 2022, once again, law enforcement realizes the significance of that. They find him for whatever reason, and they go back and they start looking at him and developing him as a suspect who is eventually charged with this crime. And we have to look at all the things that's in this one statement that he says. He says that he was on the Monon High Bridge that day, and and he said it the first time, and he said it the second interview, and he said it since then that he's been on that bridge. And as we go through this paragraph, that he told that the investigators that he was wearing blue jeans, a blue or black jacket, and or with a hood. And so we look at all these significant factors that Richard Allen says he's wearing very similar clothing to what BG is. Now, the belief is there's a lot of people says that this isn't Richard Allen, and there's people that says he is. There's discrepancies from what the FBI first developed as far as the height and size of this individual. And we find out that Richard Allen is outside the parameters set by the FBI. Now, does that mean that they were correct? All agencies, either way, are infallible, but, or fallible, actually, not infallible. Even the FBI, I mean, they have issues sometimes. They make mistakes. We all make mistakes. I've made more mistakes than most, I guarantee you that. But just from this one simple thing that we see that there's a lot of issues of why people would believe that that Richard Allen, when he's saying that these are the items he was wearing that day, that you have people that says, okay, that's enough for me. And that he placed himself there for the fact that for any individual to commit this crime, they have to be there. They can't be somewhere else. If Richard Allen has an alibi for this specific time, and we have supporting evidence that he's there at a very critical time, but if he can prove that he was not there at the exact critical time of when these crimes were committed, then he's not responsible for it. But we don't have that knowledge or that information currently. He says that he was there and he met some of the juvenile girls at a very critical time, heading into the trail when they were leaving, and they have a timeline. And that's very critical in that timeline of when he says that he was heading towards the Monon High Bridge, and when Libby and Abby arrived, and everything synced out to be a very narrow window of opportunity. Now, through the Frank's motion, 136 pages, they, of course, brought other people into the picture, saying that they're possible involved. And what are their alibis, and are they away from the scene? And of course, was law enforcement able to establish that? And if they were, and they have information saying that these people could not have committed it for the fact that they're elsewhere, then it's self-evident it cannot be. And then we have some other stuff that he says that he owns firearms and has and when you own firearms, you own bullets. And we have a bullet at the scene that is from a similar caliber that he owns. There's been an expert that has presented evidence to the prosecution and a report that says, hey, I can link that bullet to Richard Allen's firearm at his home, which is huge. And if that's the case, there's been people absolutely convicted of crimes and put to death for far less. All right. Let me get caught back up in chat before we go any further there. All right. Yeah, we got some new people coming in here. Appreciate y'all for coming in. I'm sorry, like I said, I'm not able to recognize everybody tonight, but I'm going to try to catch up with as many questions. And if I miss your questions, I'm sorry. Hirohito Suzaki says that his father was born in 57. Absolutely. I wouldn't, our parents and grandparents, and although I have a brother born in 55, so and he absolutely doesn't recognize it now. Sensei Wackadoodle, if I had a blue light, I would be flashing it right now. I don't. I'm sorry, but thank you for your support. Appreciate that. I have a blue shirt on. That's the best I can do right now, guys. And this is a fair point. Georgia Jakes, I think lack of DNA and forensic electronic evidence missing should be as relevant as it is when they exist, in my opinion. And I can see, and that's a valid point. But we also have to be aware that now our offenders and now this is the organized offenders. The disorganized, unorganized type of individual that commit crimes, they will never understand DNA and forensic evidence and electronic evidence. They're disorganized and they're classified for that reason, that they overlook it and don't care. And that can be from people that have mental issues to just, lower IQs. Now, the ones that are of higher IQs and organized offenders, they're going to understand the DNA and the forensic electronics evidence, and they're going to minimize their footprint at that crime scene through DNA and electronic evidence. And so we have to weigh it as far as, is this an organized crime scene versus a disorganized crime scene? And from the images I saw, everything appears to be organized. And we know there's some other supporting evidence as organized crime scene from the moment that we have an individual that makes contact with two victims and able to control them through whatever method. Did he bring a weapon? And what we understand now is, yes, we brought weapons. And so through those weapons, he's able to maintain control of his victims and transport them to a location. And how many locations? Don't know yet. There's a lot of debate out there. But this is a good point. True Crime with Marv. Let's see here. All right. What else we got here? Oh, boy. I hate it when it goes blank. I'll just have to bear with me. Oh, Grandbaby 2.0. There we go. Grandbaby 2.0. Now, I've got two grandbabies. And so is it 2.0 and 2.1? Or how does that go when you have the second one? grandbaby Steve 3.0, DB Steve 3.0, Stevie O and Stevie O1. Excellent. Double O Steve. And I guess that would work. Double O Steve and triple O Steve. There you go. I don't care who you are. That's funny right there. Was he born? No, but he has extreme. His hands are huge. Oh, I have a flashlight. Black Widow. Smell the baby. Oh man. Necessary Evil says, I agree. I've seen nothing yet that definitively points to multiple parties. If they come up with a crime scene and that these victims possibly could have um, um, met homicides that occurred somewhere else and they just transported to that scene, I'll go along with multiple parties. But if the homicide site is the place where the bodies were recovered, then lone wolf could absolutely be responsible. But if it's anywhere than on that plateau, I on the plateau I can go with lone wolf. Off that plateau, and even if it's in the creek, unless Richard Allen would be a freak of nature at his size and able to handle a victim the size of Libby, I would be thinking that we might need some. And I could see where law enforcement would think that, yes, we're looking at for more than one offender. And this is another, yes, only way that I believe that he could have done it is if the girls went on their own power, crossed the creek, and went up the bank, and the crime committed there. I would believe that yes, he could have done it himself. Otherwise, no, I'm not. I can see the point of the defense and probably some of the law enforcement for the fact I invite anyone to go out there, find you a person 185 to 205 pounds and drag them around your yard, just out in your yard, not even trying to pull them up a creek bank that's 5 or 6 foot high. And then if you see how difficult it is to move them just around in your yard, then envision trying to get them up a muddy, slick embankment. It wouldn't be easy unless you are someone that is used to handling that type of weight. And this is well stated. If we cannot treat the most obviously guilty people fairly and as though they are innocent, then that will not be there for the truly innocent. Absolutely. That is well stated. Thank you. Steve, how do you feel about the mention of Farm Bureau buildings in town and Riley Park? Yeah, the Farm Bureau, the old Farm Bureau, and that is going to be argued. And which one was he talking about? And of course, we have to look at it from Richard Allen's standpoint that he's confessed to the crime. He says that he parked at the old building, and of course, it's the old. Did he misstate it and intentionally, or is it just a Freudian slip or a misunderstanding of what the buildings were? Don't know. But I've walked from Riley Park. I walked all the way from downtown to the bridge, and from the bridge to downtown, and so it's walkable. But in the time frame of what Richard Allen described, and we're, I wouldn't think so. And do we have evidence other than That's what he said. And if there is evidence and he's able to support it, hey, that's why we have the court system. Uh, let's see here. Just trying to get caught up, guys. And you're valuable. Dandelions, I'm not sold that it's RA. We have to have this for our court systems and for public opinion to work. And for opposing parties, that's how come no matter how messed up our government and our officials are and our party lines and the opposing forces and arguments within that, we have to have them. And this is a fair statement, and I absolutely support anyone and everyone that says, I'm not sold, you know. And, you know, would the jury be sold? And if they're not sold, then he walks. Oh, reading some of the comments as I go through them real quick, guys. Well, yes, we have an image of who law enforcement has made references, Carter, that this individual, the FBI made this individual, even in their affidavit, that a still image from that video that Libby took, showed the individual approaching, and at the end of that, there was down the hill, and so that individual is involved. Um, and so it's more than just the police saying he's wearing the same clothes. The evidence, supporting evidence that Libby made that day by taking that video is huge. And so Libby is telling us this is what a person that she became aware of for whatever reason, that she felt strongly enough to take this picture of. It's her that's saying, this is an individual that I don't understand. And now we have another individual within a few days of says, I was on the bridge. And then even 5 years later says, oh, I was on the bridge, but I was also wearing this. And so while I agree that it's not entirely what the police says that he's wearing, there's more than just the police. Richard Allen says it, Libby says it, and we have to go with them. And the police say it through their probable cause affidavit. So all parties are saying that the individual, be it Richard Allen or not, are wearing these types of items. And this is a fair statement also. It might matter if Libby's video goes long enough to show the bridge guy making the threat. As I understand it, there's a short video of BG, then audio only of the abduction. I don't know. And why did law enforcement only do those 40 something frames, 48 frames or whatever, and do that loop? Absolutely drives me crazy that they did that loop and that step and what has that brought to the table. You know, the FBI affidavit says that at the end of this video, or towards the end of it, he says down the hill. And is that true? And where was the phone at that time? Was it in her pocket? Was it in her jacket? Was it in her hand? We just don't know. And we don't know at what point. And why did they stop it there? Of course, I have my own personal opinions of what I think some editing occurred, but we'll just have to find out. All right, now before I get too far, I'm going to, and that we're going to go to the next slide. And this is just the trail. And now Richard Allen, once again, he makes a phone call. It's not like he wished to contact his attorneys. It's not like he went to and contacted law enforcement. He called his wife, one of the most non-intimidating individuals, someone that you trust, someone that you y'all have secrets, and you basically are typically honest with. You know, it's someone that you're not expected to lie to, and that's his wife. And he tells in just this one little section at least 3 times that he is the one responsible for the crimes. Now, the defense, of course, has said that it was due to pressures um, and that it's, you know, kind of what was the proper terms that they used. It's in the next section, but there was some a term that they used, and let me see if I can find it. I don't know where it is, but anyway, but he made that confession that he is the one responsible, and that if he is the one responsible, then he's saying that, hey, I'm BG, for the fact that that's who he's saying he is. Not only is he the one that committed the crime, but he's BG, and we shouldn't miss that point. Bella says, I flip flop sometimes. I think it's Richard Allen, sometimes not. And who doesn't? You know, I play that game myself. And even when my last show, when I did the Devil's Advocate, I did that for that exact reason of trying to flip flop it back and forth. Do you think there would be justice for Abby and Libby? Yes. Now, but will it ever repair the loss to society of what Libby and Abby could have brought to the table as human beings? No. Will it ever heal the family? No. You know, so much was lost by that community, by this offender taking these innocent children's lives. It's unbelievable. And so the term justice, while you can see it through the court system being called justice, it really, you know, we've lost far more than we'll ever gain from any type of conviction, regardless of who that offender is. Steve, please clarify if you've seen anything resembling horns, antenna, etc. I trust your vision. I've looked at it, and I've looked at it, and I looked at it. And of course, there's certain information that I haven't shared and won't share from those images, for the fact that there's still the possibility that if there are other co-offenders out there, I don't want to give out all the details or significant details of what possibly a co-offender would know. And that's how come I really haven't addressed them in a lot of ways. But you trying to use the terms of what the defense said, and the defense is the one that says there are horns there. No, I did not see anything of what in my definition would make horns. Or there's some little twigs there, absolutely. But there's twigs everywhere. Is it a twig that could have got kicked up there? Yes. I don't know. But no, there's nothing I see. As I said, many times, as far as the large branches that were placed on Libya and Abbey, I see a pattern. I see deliberate act of placing those limbs in that in those locations, creating a certain pattern. I see that, and those have been put out there by other creators, and uh, and so you can, and from those, that yes, I see a pattern there, and I see that's deliberate. But as far as horns, no, I don't see anything that couldn't be random. And of course, everybody has to read into if they think it or not. But I don't think those little twigs, and they are twigs, um, have any indication of something that couldn't have just been incidental. Two face sketches. I've talked about the face sketches until I'm telling you. And necessary evil. You're correct. He probably is, and and they have to prove that beyond a reasonable doubt, and that's a fair statement. Yes, can't argue with that. Is it possible Ron Logan was involved? I've always worried about Ron Logan ever since he looked up from even the FBI affidavit of, you know, of him saying that he needed an alibi at a certain time, and and that always worries me. And why would he do that? There's a couple possibilities of why he would do it, either involved or he possibly found victims and was fearful that they were going to blame him. But even if he found them later, would he have known exactly when to ask for an alibi? So there's some very confusing things, and we don't know all the evidence that would have pointed the FBI towards him. Is there other evidence out there that they have that they, because inside the probable cause affidavits, you don't always have all the information. There can be other information within that's being held close to the chest that's outside what will convince the judge to sign that affidavit. Yes, I did a side, Cecil Hotel. I did a side by side of those two. It's in one of my previous shows, and I'm the worst creator as far as uh, having links back to which one that was. But yes, I did. Were the pants absolutely of when he's standing there having a cold beverage inside the pub that they bunched up identical. Strange. Doesn't prove anything other than that Bridge Guy and Richard Allen have similar dress patterns. All right, let's go and look at another slide. We have certain points that I have done in previous shows, and this next section that I'm looking at and comparing of Kohlberger case and the similarities between Kohlberger with the Idaho homicides and with these at Delphi is that we have a lot of similarities and we have the same arguments actually. And all we have to do is just change a few words of what the evidence that Kohlberger faces with what Richard Allen faces. And with the Kohlberger evidence, we have the DNA sheath. What do we have with the Allen case? We have the bullet with a firearm and certain characteristics that would link them to the same. So we both have some type of evidence, although DNA is far stronger than just what the bullet information, but it would both be presented by experts, and those experts carry certain weights. We have a car video with Koberger. We have a BG video with BG. The phone evidence, and there, I think uh, Richard Allen says that he was out there that day with his phone, and law enforcement will look and see what device was out there. And we've seen in the Ives interview where he says that they looked at phones for the phones that showed up for the first time ever in that vicinity and never came back on. They looked for phones that were there constantly. And so they would have it within their abilities of locating phones that were active at a certain time surrounding the crime. And so we have the phone evidence for both of them. Whereas with the phone evidence for Koberger, his phone showed movement prior to the crime, turned off, and then back later. Will that be the same with Richard Allen? Extremely possible that his phone may have went offline on that trail at some point and then came back on later. We don't know that yet, but we'll have to look at that. We have eyewitnesses for both of them. We have an eyewitness within the house that saw someone of similar stature, bushy eyebrows, and um, characteristics, and we have eyewitnesses that said that they saw Richard Allen. With Richard Allen, we have a confession. With Koberger, we have the questionnaire that is up in the air that creates that's just absolutely weird of how someone might possibly look at committing such a crime, which isn't smart. Let's see here. And this is, yeah, he didn't say what he was wearing until the 2022 interview. Kind of crazy. He admitted he was wearing that. It is, and it would absolutely. Now I think his uh, he says that he was wearing that, and so he would, if he says he's wearing it, then it means he owned it during that critical time period of 2017, and so we just have to take him for his word. And if you take him for his word at some points, and when do you stop taking him for his word? Why do you take his word that he owned that type of clothing, wearing that type of clothing, was on the bridge that day, yet you won't believe the confession part? Oh no, no, not this. That there's similarities, but no. But that's something that if you showed me an image of Richard Allen wearing skinny pants, and then you show me BG jeans, I don't think that would be within his wheelhouse of owning two different types of jeans, and so or two different types of clothing. That almost all my, regardless if my dress clothes, my work clothes, or am I going to town or going whatever it is, church clothes, that they all pretty well fit the same for me. Now I don't know if that's true, but Mrs. Steve pretty much keeps me pretty pretty same pattern. Yes, it's what was it? I think there was Gray Hughes or someone found some information about the bridge ties, and they were able to, and I'm sure law enforcement had it also, that they were able to go out there and correlate. And I think it's 60 something feet, maybe, or something like that. The necessary evil says 30 or probably okay. Okay. and get caught up, guys. Yes, he missed being at the old CPS building. He now denies the time, and the time is critical. But we have those three witnesses that he corroborates their meeting him as he walked past them heading towards the bridge, and they have a time stamp and a really uh, some critical information of when a photo was made that hasn't changed since day one of where they were at the trail at a certain time, and that's extremely strong supporting evidence. I've never read anything like this memorandum in my life that is associated with the court. And so we just have to try to figure out what that what it means and how it comes to be. Let's see here. Steve, is there a way to find out if the old CPS building was a Farm Bureau building before it was CPS? Um, you know, I don't know if it was a Farm Bureau building or whatever it was, and is was it misidentified? Because a lot of times people just like witnesses are often flawed in their description or understanding of what certain things are. Is it possible that Richard Allen, when he saw that old building, he thought it was a Farm Bureau building? I don't know. I don't think Richard Allen is originally from this town. I think that he came in there at a certain period later. Was it through that lack of knowledge of what that building was and that was over there near the farm? I have no idea. But where it might have been that if you were there for a long time, because the building is abandoned, I don't know how long it had been abandoned and for what reason and when it went out. But that's a good question. Um, could the suspect carry or drag Abby back to the scene of discovery? Abby, I think, was of a smaller stature as far as weight. I think she was somewhere around 100, which, if you look up the typical male is able to lift somewhere, I think they said the average male can handle between 135 and 185 pounds. And between those weights, the average. And so with Abby being smaller than that, then yes, more than likely the average man would be able to carry or drag Abby. Not going to be the case for Libby, with Libby being above average. Divorce. My husband's 6'2", and some of his jeans bunch around his ankles. Mine do too. My back 20 or 30 years ago, back before I had a belly, my clothes fit a lot better than what they do now. But now they punch down around my ankles far more than I like. Why did he do it? Of course, the motive for certain crimes, and when you have certain indicators of nudity or partial nudity, then of course we have what that motivation would be. And that is the typical, from the law enforcement perspective, of how we would classify the motives as being. But oh yeah, that's some of the Kohlberger. Rather than have a picture of Kohlberger, we have a picture of his car that was seen numerous times. That was shown just as much as what BG was. That everybody showed Kohlberger's vehicle driving around the area of where the homicides occurred for a lengthy period. And if you just replaced DNA with a bullet, then you had your cameras and you have your phones, and you replace the vehicle with BG, rather than having Kohlberger, you would have the probable cause affidavit that would point to Richard Allen. And just found it extremely interesting that each of those cases have a lot of parallels as what our probable cause affidavits for each individual pointed out. Good discourse. I'm concerned he's being like Ted Bundy, Zodiac, etc., playing games as a twisted psychopath now through his attorneys. They all these individuals, regardless of when you're dealing with a psychopath or narcissistic individuals, that it's me. That it's sort of like if you're ever dealing with these individuals, and especially when it comes to the point of where you're going to be struggling or you're facing life and death, that these individuals, the psychopaths that Libby and Abby will face that day, that individual had no more feeling for them than a cat has for a mouse. Those individuals, and we can't rationalize their thought process. And we all try to do that, and it's just not possible for the fact that you're dealing with an individual has only what they think, and what part you play within their fantasy is all that matters to them, not your non-existence, and that they're going to remove the planet. It means nothing to them. It's all about what part you play in their fantasy for that moment in time. It's absolutely horrifying to even contemplate. Sensei Wackado, True Crime Web, do you think he made them cross the creek, or you think the girls were hoping they would have been able to make it to RL home? Is that the nearest property? I believe they crossed the creek. There's supporting evidence that it occurred. Of course, you just have to take my word for that. There's supporting evidence that occurred, that they crossed the creek. But regardless, was it being directed? I don't think that his plan was that, yes, I'm going to force them over here. I think that just my personal speculation is that they made a run for it. It was flight, and they tried to do tried to escape, and they did the best that they could. And that when you look at this type of situation, that fight and flight, and did they at some point absolutely decide to fight? I believe so. I believe there's some supporting evidence of that also. Oh, I wish I had blue light. We have Christian behind the crime door. I believe that is. I'm looking at a very small emblem. 1999. Thank you. I just don't have my blue light. I'm so sorry. Any chance RA is guilty, but it was a chance encounter where he got into an argument with the girls. The time frame, I believe, would allow for that. I mean, you're talking about that the misfortunes of two little innocent children getting into an argument with an offender, and that they able to negotiate their way out of an argument, and then within seconds they cross someone even more evil. I don't. I think that's a far reach, but that's just my personal opinion. Maybe it wasn't a predator type of crime, but a crime done to control and frighten. Um, you know, what they taught us and the profiling part of my training is that when you have nudity or partial nudity, that's not the case. Um, Rick says, I'm new to channel. My 2 cents and feeling is that this will never be solved. Um, if they're unable to convict Richard Allen with it, Rick, I'm absolutely 100% with you that if they can't prove it's Richard Allen, I don't think they'll ever be able to prove anyone else, for the fact that they will always be able to point back at Richard Allen as being the one that is most likely responsible, with the most evidence and the confession that he committed the crime. And so I will tend to agree with you, Rick. That's a disingenuous statement. You're not supposed to lie to your wife. Absolutely. True in a good marriage, and a bad marriage, lies are the substance of life. And that is a good observation. You are correct. I wish I had stated it in that fashion earlier. Um, Outside of the grid, I'm curious of Steve's interpretation of what might be the motive for a guy like Rick Allen. I know nothing about Rick Allen's personal life. I can only tell you that if he's responsible and he's innocent until proven guilty, but in my perspective from my training, that if he forced them to disrobe, then of course it has the aspects of the being that type of a predator, and so that would be the motive. Christian, Steve, are y'all now in Florida? We are to, tonight and for the next week or so. The uh, grandson Double O was Double O Steve was born yesterday, and so Mrs. Steve is elated, and we're absolutely uh, uh, going to be here for a few days. We have a temporary home that we're staying in right now while we look for more properties. We still have a home in Georgia. Um, Big fish, small pond. I like how everyone is so appalled about the leak, but chose to look at the pics anyway. Um, I've looked at thousands of crime scene pictures, um, and I can understand why people, it's curiosity, it's human nature that they want to look at them. It's like watching a train wreck, or any type of wreck, or watching a house burn down. People will watch for whatever reasons, and people react and behave in certain manners, and some of them are appropriate and some are not. Um, I was sent the pictures uh, by now several different ones that wanted opinions, and I shared my opinion with them. Cecil Hotel, $2 super sticker. I wish I had a blue light. I'll give it to you, and I just don't have one. That I'm sorry. Uh, Christian Behind the Crime Door, member for 14 months. Christian Behind the Crime Door was my very first um, member. And like I said, she was my very first member. I appreciate her. Great show. And then Gail Hurt, $4 super sticker. Thank you. Appreciate your support. All right. Trying to get caught up here, guys. I think I'm getting caught up. Probably not. Um, Necessaries, albeit I did want to see the sticks or how they were left because I felt that was important to the case. I've done a lot of work on those images and they're sanitized, and but I still will not show them until court, and then once they're released, uh, I'll have no issues with. Um, have Mr. and Mrs. Steve. I thought he needed an alibi because he was out driving at the time, and that was a probation violations. That's why he ended up going to prison for. Um, and that's what people have argued for a long time. I just found it strange, that he would, and that's the reason. I just find it strange. Maybe absolutely true, and argue the point. All right, still trying to get caught up. Andy Linus, member for 6 months. Appreciate it. Thank you for your support. I carry. I have. I'm in Florida right now, and I have 3 phones on me currently. So, and I have over 20 phones at home. And this is a good point that maybe he figured someone reported him wearing the clothes that BG all just happened to be wearing, and um, yeah, I mean, where else would he have gone that day? I mean, we're talking about um, whatever time Richard Allen's habit of getting up during that day is. What was his normal work schedule? What hours did he work? And what time did he go to bed? What time did he get up? Where was his normal travels? And what did he do that day? Where did he go? Can you please explain how whoever interviewed him and none of the witnesses said it was R8? No. Um, um, the young juvenile girls, no, I have no idea. Law enforcement would ask that, or I can guarantee you that the defense attorneys will ask that question, and we'll have that answer for the defense. Will ask, um, "Did you know Richard Allen? Did you ever see him at the CVS? And did you recognize him as being that?" And they'll ask that of the same. Um, for the witness that saw him on the platform or saw an individual, was that Richard Allen? Did you know Richard Allen? And that's a good question, but that would be a question that will get asked in court if it goes to court. Uh, Spiritual Jenny says a numerology of Delphi and Evansdale weirds me out. Absolutely. I looked at that, and I've done a lot of work on Evansdale and continue to do work on Evansdale. Got a lot in chat. I hope I'm not missing too many people. Mr. Steve, is it possible the perpetrator made Abby dress herself before the homicide? Maybe the step-by-step dressing of her is hogwash. Um, that's something that is absolutely possible. We just don't know. Um, and the some of that information would be known to law enforcement because they would be able to tell from the injuries of and are those injuries supporting of her wearing clothes at the time of the homicide. And I don't know that information. That'd be something that law enforcement will know. But that's a good point. Can someone explain how the research study questionnaire is evidence in Kohlberger's case? Well, we'll see what, if the court allows it within, we don't even know if the court will even allow it in yet. But I'm sure there'll be hearings about that. Is it relevant and all the other stuff? So right now, we don't know if that it will be evidence or not. There's Christian's 1999. Hope the move is going smooth. Much respect. Your show is always eye opening. Thank you. And I wish I had a blue light. I don't have a blue light. Um, could he have made them undressed across the creek? Sorry, I know it's off to even talk about. Um, there's supporting evidence that I don't think that's the case. I just won't be able to discuss it, in fact, until it gets to the point that the pictures are out there. All right. All right. Yeah, I'm I saw Virginia up there mention everybody being civil, and I appreciate everybody working together tonight, especially in chat since Mrs. Steve and not all the mods are here. Steve, do you think they did a DNA on the bullet? I believe they absolutely would have attempted to, for the fact that when you load or handle any type of surfaces, there always the possibility of now with modern technology of all different types of abilities of locating DNA. And I think they would have checked for that. I'm getting caught up, guys. I'm not that far behind now. Unearthed secrets, unrelated true crime. I meant to congratulate you more earlier and sound more excited for you and your family, but like always, you made me panic about 5,000 other things during our call. Unearthed secrets is part of our team where our channel was going when we work code cases, and look forward to working with her in the future. And I was discussing some scientific equipment acquisitions and things that we're looking at, and so that's what she's talking about. Oh man. Thank you, Kristen. Yes, the double O Steve. That's we're going to no triple O Steve, because first grandson would be double O. Triple O Steve. It's okay, say I don't need the luminol blue light. You're welcome. Thank you. Appreciate that. I forgot to pack my blue light. And get caught up with chat, guys. Getting there. A few minutes behind now. Good point, Christian, behind the crown door. Everyone, don't forget the Flora Memorial Walk this Saturday in Flora. Absolutely go out and support in any shape, form, or fashion and bring awareness to that case. Thank you, Cunningham, about the grandson. Absolutely believe that she'll write double O and triple O Steve in there this week sometime. That's funny. Oh man. Mr. Steve, can the bullet, the method used to check for prints, have any effect on potential DNA? Interesting thing now is that in 2017, they now currently produce DNA-free fingerprint powders. Now, there's a lot of different ways of processing different surfaces for fingerprints. It's not always involving powders. And you got everything from fuming with super glue to um, just visual inspection. Sometimes you can see prints. Depends on the type of casing it is, and there's you know other chemicals that can be applied. So I just don't know which method was used. And this is, someone in the BK case studying so intently the moves of people who commit homicide could arguably be more prepared to commit quadruple homicide without getting DNA. And that would be true for all organized offenders. That if you're going out there with the intent of committing a crime, that you're going to understand more than if you're a disorganized type of offender. But anyway, I've got Baby Steve. Baby Steve, one I've always referred to as Baby Steve, is of course my daughter. And but now that I had my grandson, and we've never really, talked about him a lot as far as giving him a name. But now that we have two grandchildren, we're going to have to do another generation. Let's see, Mr. Steve, what happens if they deem RA sane now, but insane during the act? That'll be left up to the courts, and if they'll allow that. And I don't understand. I don't know when Indiana has those types or hearings, and when that would be brought to the court's attention. That being said, ask how is it single source as it was under a person losing large amounts of fluid? Yeah, that's on the Kohlberger case. Just didn't get mixed. I think you've done a great job with chat tonight, considering the CEO isn't by your side. Yes, thank y'all. And I appreciate everybody for your support, the donations, the views. And if you like the video, give it a thumbs up, share it. And I appreciate everybody being here. If you're new to the channel, welcome. And we appreciate you being here. And but y'all stay safe out there. I'm pretty well caught up, and let these other channels get out there, and y'all go visit them and work together, and y'all stay safe, and I'll see y'all soon, guys.